So the last video that I did was called Intervention. And it was, okay, so a lot on getting inspired, and it feels like part of the creative process, finishing the book, to do certain things. And I guess I'm also like becoming more, I don't want to say intimate with YouTube, but like engaging more with you guys, and like Carol and like Denise, and of course Joey is like, everybody needs to thank Joey that if you actually like me or any of this content. I remember when I had like 34 followers like a year ago, and Joey was the only person that would watch my videos. And I remember but I had this like push from my dad to start talking, like not just like doing yoga and stuff, like, I wanted to be of service. None of this is about me, but it's kind of funny because Joey and I had a conversation, and he's been watching this since I actually like started using this channel to be of service in every way that I can. He said something like, it was interesting, but my personality, I was like, it felt selfish. He was like, I feel like, and Joey has a very interesting way of looking at things, like a very unique way that I respect. He was like, I feel like probably the person that's benefited the most from your service, like he didn't say this verbatim, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Joey. He said probably the person that's benefited the most from your service and your consistency with the channel this year, going from like 34 to now I think there's like 337 today, is May 12th almost. It's like 10:45 at night. I'm making pasta. Hold on. Sorry. The dogs are chill. He's like, you have benefited the most. Anyway, I wanted to say that was like a random, I've talked a lot about my story, but not like the way that I was talking about the book. That's like a chapter, that's actually the title of a chapter. And I needed to balance out like amazingness, because, that's not the first chapter of the book. And I want to tell, it's kind of it has sad characters in that part. So I want to tell you a really beautiful part, okay? It has lemurs, and I wrote a message on an island that I kayaked all by myself. Let's get to it. So, everything I have, my whole life that I built up to the age of, I had my 30th birthday, July 27th, 2011. That makes sense, right? Because I was born in 1981. And that was, my mother's stroke was June 18th or 16th. Either the stroke was one day and I flew one day, or vice versa. Probably that sorted itself out. 2011 in DC. And so, anyway, skip to the whole rehab shuffle, end up in a programming center, find really beautiful, I make the best of everything. And this amazing sponsor, this woman is a boss. She's still somebody that, I send love to, and she has maybe 3 kids now, I think 2. She's one of the classiest women I've ever met in my life. Okay, so I think, it's emotional. Let's skip past 2 years from that. And this is just jumping in. That was 2011. So that was 10 years ago that I arrived here for good, November 24th, 2011. So by 2012, I had a little apartment. It was a box, actually, and DWP didn't even have it. Like, I called to register I had a lease. I called to register, pay my energy, or, my, water and power. And I was like, yeah, it's Hudson Avenue. It was on Hudson and Melrose in West Hollywood. And it was literally they had made a makeshift, it was kind of slanted, and it was just a room. And there was another room that was like a closet, but a little bigger, and it fit my twin bed. So I had my twin bed in there, but there was just 1 inch on each side of me, and like that. And then I had like the big room, which, you know, my friend Nellie came there, a few of my friends came there. And it opened up into this really beautiful parking lot slash alley way. But I called them and I was like, da 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 da. And they're like, this apartment doesn't exist. I'm like, well, sir, I have a lease in my hand and I need to set up, you know, I mean, the lights were on, the water was on, like, and he was like, he didn't say like, did I stutter, bitch? No, he was like, I said the apartment doesn't exist. I was like, all right, so I don't need to call you every month and pay you. Is that what we're saying? I mean, I didn't say that, but I was like, got it. Unit da-da-da-da-da on, it was 108, 1708 Hudson Avenue, something like that. Unit 4. I think it was Unit 4. So I was like, cool. You know, I was hitting the pavement, like it was intense trying to work when I got here, but you know, I hustled and anyway, so skip to, I have my little box in the alley and I'm teaching all over the place. I took any class I could get, but I had a few in West Hollywood. I had started to get private clients and I was still the secretary of the place I thought was a fucking rehab. They had like an alumni meeting. No, maybe I wasn't secretary. It was my last time being secretary at that meeting and I met the only man I married. I've been engaged a few times, 4. I married one man who passed away actually. His name's Patrick, and he passed away last year. So we got married, but before that, I was his private yoga teacher. He wound up in that freaking programming center, and I still have never been able to talk to him about that actually. But sorry. He's in heaven for sure. I didn't even mean to get into that. Oh, but he does have a little bit to do with the story. Before we ever kissed or dated or anything, I was his private yoga teacher and he still remains and shall probably remain the only student I've ever taught yoga to and something romantic happened. And anyway, I don't know why that was like a rule for me. It just was. Some people are whatever. So, but 6 months though, so he was, I used to go see him at the Hills and they were like trying to keep us apart. Like I remember, cause he was paying me and it was more money than I'd ever, he was paying me $500 for 4 yoga sessions a week. And that was like, all of a sudden my income went from like, you know, nothing. I was like, you know, and I gave away everything. I was told to give away everything. I'll never forget leaving Miami and I was like, but I just got this new bed. I'll buy you a new bed. And when it came time to move into my alley, it was my mom that bought me this like really, I don't know, she couldn't have bought it. She told me to buy it. I just bought like a shittiest bed. Anyway, let's stay on track. Okay, so when I could tell that he was wealthy, but I don't care about that stuff so much. Like I could tell when I would go visit him at the Hills, how they treated him. Like he was in the suite. He didn't have to go to groups. None of this stuff did I understand was like not normal for an actual licensed rehab, right? He was doing business on his phone all day. He had me coming 4 times a week to teach yoga. He went out on errands all the time. You know, you could tell that he was paying more, so he was getting different treatment. Anyway, and it was so weird because when I would go there, I was like, whatever. So he asked me, so after he left and, you know, graduated, I think he just left that place. he moved into the Peninsula Hotel where he lived. And if you don't know what the Peninsula Hotel is, I think it's the most expensive hotel in LA. So he lived there like on a monthly basis. That was his house. And he traveled a lot. He has homes everywhere. He's a very, very wealthy man. Was a, whatever the fuck you are up there. Anyway, so I would go 6 days a week to the Peninsula, and he would have the guys at the pool top, it's really cute actually, set up the mats. So every morning at 6 a.m. I would go, it was like 7 a.m. he wanted me there. So every morning I would go there, and you know, the Peninsula is very, you know, the valet takes my car, and I go in, and it's like just beautiful chandeliers and breakfast, and like 10 people you see on the way to the pool, and then they're like waiting there, and there's water and mats, and you know, like he took up the whole pool. Like he was like they call it a pen guest or something like that. He had a special clicker that like worked for any room. Anyway, so none of this phases me. But we become closer because we're friends. So weird, because I feel like people that I'm close to that I pass like are still with me, you know. But we were friends first, and like I think I was also a respite for him. But anyway, this is the happy story, and we always laughed. It was very funny because this is the same pool I'm going to 6 times a week for like 4 months probably, or maybe 5. It was only like a month or so I saw him at the Hills, and I was like, I just fucking got out of this place and I gotta keep driving back here. Like, what the fuck? Still not knowing it was a programming center. I learned that like 3 years ago. So, so I'm at the Peninsula. Oh yeah, he would always wave at me. Like, hey, I'm over here. And it's like, I would say to myself, like, I'm coming here every fucking day, dude. Like, I know. Even when you're not here, I know where to go. But, so one day, he said, hey, have you ever been to Necker Island? I said, I've never heard of Necker Island. Where's that? He's like, well, it's a place, it's owned by my friend called Richard Branson, whose name rang a bell, but I didn't know who he was. And he goes, I need to travel for work, which he always did. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even think he was like asking me, you know? I was like, oh, okay. So like he traveled often, and he's like, okay, I'll be back this week. Like if he was going away, whatever, we'd suspend yoga, obviously. He's like, would you be willing to come as my yoga teacher? I don't want to give up my practice this time. And I need to go to the Bahamas and then to Necker Island. So it's Necker for 7 days and Bahamas on the front end for like 3 days for 2 meetings. And I was like, you know, and there was no flirtation ever. There was the feeling that you have when you're close to another human being. Like I remember in Shavasana, I would like, Shavasana is when you lie down at the end, I would like rub his neck and stuff and just pray more maybe than, I pray for all my students. Like, you know, I always have good intentions, you know, but I would just wish him well, you know, like he was a good person. And I remember I was like, yeah, he offered to pay for all of my privates that I was missing, all classes that I was missing, plus $3,500, plus my, like everything, plane, da da da. And I remember my dad happened to be in town that week, and we went to dinner with my sister, and she was like, absolutely not. La, 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 la. And I was like, Dad, like, how can I turn down like $6,000 for 10 days? Like, what the fuck is she talking about? And he's like trying to convince my sister, I remember, and she was like livid. She was so mad. This is what I want to get to. It was really, really beautiful. I'm not saying that money makes things beautiful, because it wasn't about that. I had accepted and surrendered in a really graceful way, and like kind of like re-emerged as this like 33, I guess, year old woman living in Los Angeles, humble as fuck, and just always myself, you know? But I'll never forget, you know, finally it was like, you know, fuck yourself. I'm not, there's no way, unless you want to pay me $6,000, which you won't even buy me a bed that you said you would buy me. You know, I'm going to do this. And so I'll never forget taking an Uber to the peninsula to meet him in the morning because the flight was leaving, and getting in that Mercedes. It was a black Benz that took us to the airport, and I knew my life would never be the same for some reason. There was no attraction then. We ended up kissing for the first time on Necker. This is getting long, so I don't want to, but I want to tell you some beautiful things. Whatever anyone wants to say about, I don't care about anything except for the beauty of the story. So I had, lost everything, accepted all that, blah, blah, blah. And then, next thing you know, I'm on a flight to Miami and we're going to the Bahamas. And so we get off at Miami and we go a different way. I'm like, where are we going? He's like, oh, we're going to my jet. Like he has his own plane. And I'm like, cool, I've never been on a private plane before. So it's like new experience after new experience. But I'm not like a kind of person, and he knows that too, that's like impressed. I was just like, and it was like, I guess the message that I want to say, the takeaway is that life is so beautiful if you are, no matter what. If you're beautiful and your reaction to anything is either acceptance, surrender, yes, we get angry, yes, we react, yes, we when I lost that studio in Miami, when I had to give it away, I'll never forget, I just signed the papers on the set of a filming of Whitney. Her assistant brought me the papers. She didn't even allow me to accept money for it. I had to give the studio away. The state of Florida requires $10 for that. I didn't even get that $10. And then they hit me up for payroll the next month, and Meredith Feinberg stole my electric bike. I wanted to gift it to my friend Yuli Heaton. She's a witness. So many witnesses. And she said, no, it's studio property. Anywho, I think I had it in the window trying to sell it to pay rent that month. That's why it was at the studio. Anyway, so next thing I know, the private jet, whatever. And then, I slept in a different room in the Bahamas. We watched Osho at night. If you don't know about Osho, O-S-H-O. So then we go to, I've traveled everywhere before this, but so then we land from Jamaica to, before you go to the boat that takes you to Necker, you land in the BVI. And so then we get on this boat ride. It's about 30 minutes depending. I've been to Necker 3 times now. I don't know if I'll go back. I've only been with Patrick, but so we go, and it's the most beautiful 7 days I've ever experienced, and my soul needed that, I had been just the mental stuff that they do to you in those programming centers. First you're told you have a disease and it's okay and da da da, and then they flip it, and it's very weird, and you're just you have to have a very strong soul and mind. And also, if you're a good person like me, I always kind of assumed, anyway, I was more inclined to take on, to the benefit of the doubt be that it was something I had done or I can do to fix things. You know what I mean? I now realize how special that is and what a fucking gift it is that I won't ever become bitter, because if I was going to, it would have happened by now. We land on Necker, and it's just it's just beautiful. I feel like they might pump more oxygen in the air, you know what I mean? I was writing the whole time. I remember one day I kayaked out from Necker. There's a little island that's literally just 2 palm trees and sand. I think it's man-made, I'm pretty sure, but a while ago. And I kayaked out there, he was my boss still. We hadn't kissed. The first kiss we had was at the white party. Every night was a different event of a night, and at the white party. Anyway, that's a different thing, and that's kind of irrelevant. The magic of this whole thing of going from where I thought I was just never gonna have a space or a studio or really do anything. This reality that I live in this alley in a box now in a town that's I don't know, I wouldn't have chosen LA ever. Venice, I love, I'll never leave Venice, but West Hollywood and Hollywood, it's kind of eh. It's not for my soul. It doesn't, my heart is not there. I can't believe I lived there so long, but I traveled a lot. Life took me places. So on Necker, first of all, we arrive and there's a lemur sanctuary. There's monkeys, and then, okay, so forget there's so many monkeys. There's turtles, there's fish, there's iguanas. There's this one iguana that was in our thing the whole time. He kept trying to get into things, and not like the seagull. It wasn't safe stuff. Like, what do you have, like paper? And I was like, no, buddy, you don't want that. On that trip, I think, oh yeah, so when I was writing so much, and I kayaked out to the island just by myself, and I wrote self versus non-self equals contrast. And to me, it was like the explanation of everything. Like, and what I really understood to be true, sorry, buddy. What I really understood to be true, and I still do from that experience, is that everything is either self or non-self, and we just dwell in that. When we must act, we act with grace. Speak with an iota, I have to work on this one, of concern for what you want your words to do, because they're powerful, just like you, like all of us. And our souls, like, it was so many, I mean, from there, it was almost like every other month, like I went to Helsinki, and then Morocco, and then back to Necker, London, and teaching workshops everywhere, because he was supporting me. He wanted to, like, in Necker, before we kissed, I always like to make that clear. He's like, I want to bankroll you. Like, he didn't know I had a studio in Miami and stuff. And he and I built Agni, which was the most successful studio in West Hollywood at the most inconvenient time for me, because I was my father's caretaker. I didn't give a shit. My dad came first. But I just remember being like, it's like this, the studio's doing too well. I knew I was going to do well, but, you know, there's nothing that would ever be more important than being by my father's side every fucking second that I could. And Agni was a sacrifice of that, and I'll never regret it. You know, I was planning to move to Florida to be with my father, and he passed away. I didn't lose my studio. The lease was up. The 3 years was up. I didn't renew it. I didn't have the fucking money to do it, or the fucking, like, it wouldn't have worked. But, you know, we didn't lose. We were a massive success despite everything. But Necker was really magical. It was like, I felt like a princess. And so change the, like, stuff. What I want to share is that no matter where you are, you can end up anywhere in a month, in a year, in a day, just by sustaining a positive and loving attitude. I don't know, you know, this is going to get into a little bit of a deeper conversation. I'm trying to close this out. But Patrick said when he saw me, he's like, you're just light. Like, I had to talk to you. I had to, you know, I don't know, whatever you were doing, yoga, breathing, I needed to do it. And, like, I think when we keep or hold the intention, I don't do it perfectly at all, but at least hold the intention to daily keep our internal circumstances clean and clear. Like one of my old martial artist teachers, Karen Shane, said, you know, I would worry and fuss in my head and say, what about this? I did this. What if they think that? And Ashley, if you take a shit, clean it up. Apologize and move on. That's it. and it makes things a little more simple. But I think that everyone probably has similar stories, you know. Cuba, before Cuba was even allowed. We went in like 2014, and I remember they fucked up, and we went through the Cayman Islands. They did or didn't stamp Patrick's thing on the way back, and we weren't sure if we were gonna get back into the US. We had a lot of fun together, and I never would have met him and had those experiences. A husband, if that didn't happen, if all this stuff didn't happen. So what I'm saying is that, and I say this all the time, and I cannot overemphasize how true it is, that everything is a blessing. This sort of turned into more about Patrick than I wanted to share more about the fun of Necker, but maybe it is a good time to just say, I hope you're doing really well in heaven, and thank you for believing in me. That was what Patrick did. Like, you know, he believed in me and he saw me, and it's hard to see now, like, how much my sister, as a celebrity, like, was just actively not only not helping me, but like pushing me down, you know? And then once Patrick said, he was so cute, like once we started like seeing each other, he's like, he never even went to the box place, that apartment. But, and he traveled all the time, but he got a big house in the hills, and he open dogged me, you know? And then I had a studio in LA, and I didn't mean to get like this, but it's happy, grateful tears. I'm so honored that he was a part of my life, and for every experience that we had. I'll forget all the bad ones, but yeah, Patrick, my girl, may you rest in power in heaven forever, and thank you. Yeah. I love you guys. So this is just like a day that I'm writing, and I guess I'm extrapolating the important images. My friend came over for dinner, and I was like, I feel like this is like a TV show or a movie too, but the book has to precede it. And this is not like some sad autobiography, self-centered thing. This is like, I want it to be funny, but also with tools. And like the main sort of thread is that it just boils down to self versus non-self equals contrast, and as much love and service and like honesty and staying connected to this place, that's it. The journey is the destination.